Let's go, Spike.
This is On the Money with your financial advisor, Ryan Wheelis. I'm the host, Spike Spangle. For the next hour, we're going to keep coming to you about retirement planning strategies, what you need to be thinking about. But Mr. Ryan Wheelis, how are you doing this week?
Spike, it's so good, but I've been the kids are out for summer, right? So Aria is 7, Jack's 5. It's summertime. They're staying up later, so we're having to. You know, we they got iPads, but we're real big about trying to keep them off iPads, right? We give them some time during the day, have, maybe an hour a day of iPad time, but you got to entertain them in the evening, right? Otherwise, that they want to be on these darn iPads. And so I started watching, we started out watching all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies together.
Yeah.
So gotten through all those. Now I'm out of material, right? So.
Oh my God! The first week of summer, you can't run out.
I know. So I went back in my memoirs, and last night we pulled out the Goonies. Remember the Goonies?
Oh, nice. Absolutely.
The Fratelli family gang was printing money and at it again, and they went out and found One-Eye Willie. Jack, who did not want to watch the movie at all, was just glued to the television last night. It's just funny. But
I know. You know what? This really baffled me. I wanted to take a picture of it, but I was driving. Same thing. 3 little kids as I was driving through the neighborhood yesterday. All of them were sitting out on the front porch. Okay? Great. That's what you're supposed to do. Be outside for summer. Guess what? All 3 of them were sitting next to each other, scrolling on their phones. They weren't playing. They weren't doing anything. They were just sitting next to each other. Bury the phones, folks. Make them go outside and play.
Even more interesting than this, you and I are similar ages.
Yeah.
Remember Back to the Future?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Right. And they had the hoverboard.
Yeah.
And that was the wave of the future. Well, I was expecting to see a hoverboard, and that's still not out yet, right? But none that actually, levitates off the ground anyway. But what's really interesting is all these electric things, like these electric scooters. You don't see kids, we live in the Woodlands and in office here in Market Street is our corporate headquarters. You don't see kids riding bicycles to and from this area. They're all on these electric scooters. And it's really interesting to see that, we used to ride bikes. And
in packs. It was the gang of us.
Well, and you knew what house everyone was at by the number of bicycles in the front yard. So you knew if we were hanging out at Spike's house, there'd be 10 bikes in front of Spike's house.
And Mom would have to go get popsicles for everybody, For
sure. The good old days. It's amazing the changes. But, Spike, it is interesting, too, is Aria was in a pool, right? And let me back up. We keep bees, okay? So I'm a beekeeper, all right? And so I started in the beekeeping process my kids thought I was just doing it to keep bees. I bought the beehive. I bought this thing called a flow hive. Pretty cool deal. Built it. They helped me. Stained it. They helped me. Painted it. They helped me. Put it all together. Got the bees in. They got bee suits. I got bee suit, right? We installed the bees, and then the bees make honey. Well, when the bees made honey, I jarred the honey up. And we got a lot of jars. I think we got like 40 jars of honey, right? And so what we did is we wanted to sell the honey, okay? But I taught my kids about business in this instance because people were wanting our honey because of local allergy relief. Like people, my neighbors were wanting it, right? And so I said, guys, listen, we're not in the honey business. We're in the allergy relief business. So each jar of this honey is $25. And so we literally sold all these jars of honey for $25. And so the kids got to keep half the money. That was their profit. The other half went back to the bank. Okay, Dad's the bank.
For reproduction.
Dad didn't charge them interest, but we had to, have money in the bank for supplies and, things like that. So the beehive got big. And so I had to add another section onto the beehive and another thing for the bees to make honey. And so we had money in the bee bank to buy this new addition to the hive. I had to build it, put it all together, put it back out there, right? Then we harvested a bunch of honeys. Anyway, we're in the bee business, and I'm teaching my kids about business using bees as a way to do it. And I think that's important, by the way. Now, what's really interesting is Aria likes bees, and she's out there with her gloves, and the bees are on her hands, and they're not stinging her. Well, she's in the pool, and we're at a hotel in Arizona. This is a while back when this happened, but she's a beekeeper. So there's this little bee in the pool, and the bee's drowning. So Aria puts the bee on her finger and tries to save the bee. Well, guess what happens? The bee stung her. And she was just in shock. And I said, honey, you have to understand that at the end of the day, they're still bees. They will sting you, right? And she didn't know what she didn't know about beekeeping yet because she'd not, she'd always had protection and that sort of thing and gear on and that sort of thing. And she didn't know.
Yeah.
And it really dawned on me, in that moment, Spike, it's like, the people we talk to on the show, they're out there and they're wandering around through the financial product world and talking to financial advisors and talking to, people at the water cooler at work and trying to figure out how to retire and navigate this space, but you can get stung because you don't know what you don't know, and it was just an interesting take, if you will, and it's just why we do this show here, is to really provide people good education, good advice about how to take the resources you've saved and accumulated and all the Social Security and pension and savings and real estate income and whatever you've got, and combine all those things in a way that allows you to go out in the world in retirement and spend money with confidence and enjoy the time you have left on God's green earth. And, that's what this show is all about. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. And man, I can make the analogies there. I mean, sometimes reaching out to things that have never harmed you before, an S&P 500 fund or a bond fund, and getting stung by that back in 2022. Sometimes reaching out to something that you think you understand. The markets change, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about throughout our program here for the full hour on KTRH. We got a whole bunch of topics. For those watching our YouTube videos, thank you so much. You've been clicking on them. Now make sure that you also reach out to us. You can text us at 21000, type in the word plan, and we'll reach out to you, and we'll start setting up a retirement plan for you, your portfolio x-ray. You can call us, 844-944-7555. But a huge thing I wanted to talk about, certainly the first half of the show here, 40 is not that far away. It's about 15 years away. And we've got a retirement wave across the United States that is unbelievable. Ryan, you and I talked about this a couple of years ago, but more people today are turning 65, especially in the U.S., than at any time in history. And we are going to have millions and millions of people turning 65, which means for our 50, 55-year-olds, 60-year-olds, we've got some time to prepare for retirement. We're going to dig further into Texas in a little bit. But isn't this a good time, 15 years out, hopefully from our retirement, to start looking at, are we saving enough, Ryan?
Oh, without question. And the sooner you get started saving, the less you have to save, by the way, right? Because the time value of money helps you accumulate money. And if you wait until 60 to start saving, you got to save a lot. If you wait until you start doing it at 50, you have to save a lot less than waiting until 60. You start doing it at 40, you have to save a lot less than waiting until 50, right? So the sooner you start saving, the better off you are. I do believe at 50, though, Spike, you really should start thinking about the composition of your accounts, meaning where are you saving the money? And the reason why I say that is the worst thing you can possibly do is have all of your money saved in a tax-infested retirement account that you're going to use when you're to fund your lifestyle in retirement. It's a big problem. And you're going to talk more about this, but by 2040, over 80 million Americans will be age 65 or older. That means they're on Social Security. They're also on Medicare, okay? And that's up from 58 million in 2025. So it's basically 22 million additional people on Medicare and Social Security. Well, why am I saying this? Well, the biggest threat you have to how long your money lasts you in retirement is not market risk. It's not maximizing Social Security. It's not healthcare. It is taxation, folks, by a mile, all right? And the reason why I say that is nothing in Congress is permanent, okay? The tax laws that Trump's putting in place right now, the extension of the Trump's tax cuts are, they're not permanent. It says they're going to be permanent. They're not. You can suffer up to 18, I say suffer, up to 18 to 2 election cycles in a retirement lifespan. And every time somebody comes in, they can undo what's been done. And taxes will be a big threat to you. So how do you combat taxes at age 50? Well, the way you do it is you start looking at ways to save money outside of 1K, all right? Maybe you choose the Roth option. Maybe you look at some brokerage accounts, okay? Maybe you look at diversifying your portfolio into some index universal life insurance policies that allow you to take money out tax-free. 50 is a good age to do that, by the way, all right? I have one of those. So does my wife, Callie. But understand tax diversification and go ahead now and start building out a plan to deal with taxation later, all right? Because I can tell you right now, we're $37 trillion in debt and climbing. Add in the entitlements that we're owed, it's another $78 trillion. So we're $115 trillion-ish in debt, okay? We're one of the lowest tax rates in history. Trump's touting one of the biggest tax cuts in history. I got news for you, folks. Being that far in debt with that much owed into the future and a low tax rate environment, as we say in Texas, that dog does not hunt.
You can go to onthemoneytaxplan.com right now. It's a free tool that Ryan and his team have put together to help you figure out how much you owe in taxes right now on your tax-deferred accounts. And then you can reach out to the program to find out exactly what you want to do about that. So let's talk a little bit about what you find out, Ryan, from the On the Money Tax Plan when we get back. Also, Texas in particular, so where you are home-based right now, but for the YouTube channel, people could be watching you all across the nation. How many millions of people in Texas alone? In fact, what was the number 1 or 2 state for people turning 65? Shouldn't be a surprise here in Texas. More Ryan Wheelis and On the Money when we get back, and what you do with that onthemoneytaxplan.com. When you schedule your appointment, we'll sit down with you in that report. 844-944-7555 or text us, plan at 21000. More with Ryan right after.